No worries. We're missing 2 people here.
Yeah, three people.
I was going to say, do we have a second?
Yeah, we have a quorum in.
Wait, what hand sandal?
Okay. They're coming.
Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Will you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, can we please start with a roll call?
Yes. Council President Perez. Councilmember Vaughn.
Here.
Councilmember Alverson.
Here.
Councilmember Rivera.
Here.
Councilmember O'Halloran.
Here.
Councilmember McIrvin.
Here.
And Councilmember Prince.
Here.
Roll call, Mr. Mayor, 1 absent.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Council President.
I move we excuse the absent council member.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilmember McGurven, second by Councilmember Alverson, that we excuse the absent council member. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. All right, motion carries. So we're going to start off tonight with the administrative report.
Good evening. On Thursday, the next Equity Commission will meet on Tuesday, August 11th at 5:30 in the Council Conference Room 720. The agenda will include an orientation session on the paused ALPR camera system provided by the Renton PD. To view the full agenda, please visit our boards and commissions calendar on our website at rentonwa.gov. Summer fun continues this week around Renton with these exciting events. Thursday, August 13th, enjoy live popular rock music between two Gregs on the Kid Valley stage at Coulon Park from 6:30 to 8 p.m. Friday, August 14th, catch dinner and a movie at Legacy Square with food trucks, entertainment, and a showing of Black Panther. Events from 6 to 9:30 p.m. Saturday, August 15th, Dance the Night Away with Soul Sacrifice, the Northwest Premier Santana Tribute Band, for an evening of Latin rock, rhythm, and soul. Food trucks and the Beverage Garden open at 5:30 p.m. with music from 7 to 9. Information about preventative street maintenance, traffic impact projects, and road closures happening this week can be found at our website. All projects are weather permitting, and unless otherwise noted, streets will always remain open. That's all, sir.
All right, thank you. Next up is audience comment. And we do have quite a few people signed up for audience comment. Tonight, I want to remind everyone, all remarks must be addressed to the council as a whole. When I call your name, please step up to the podium. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. There'll be a little timer in front of you. When it turns yellow, please start wrapping up your comments. We're going to do something new since we have so many people tonight. I'm going to call the first person up. I'm also going to call who's on deck. So if you could get prepared so we can get through this and get everybody a chance to speak. So first up is Adam Hone, and on deck would be Adrian Higgs. So...
Good evening, Council. My name is Adam Monet. I am a resident of Renton, Washington. Let's start this off with something a little bit different, but still related to the FLOK cameras. We're going to go back 26 years, to the year 2000. It's July. There's a big blockbuster movie. You may have heard of it, X-Men. It touched on a few different themes, but we start opening with a scene where a young Jewish boy is being persecuted in this dark, stormy, gray, gross scene during the Holocaust. The only way that he can escape is because he has powers. He has magnetic powers, that lets him escape. Immediately after that, we switch to a completely different scene where we're in front of the US Senate. In that scene, you have Jean Grey, one of the well-known mutants of the X-Men, talking about mutant powers and how, yes, these are how these powers get activated, but these are also people that are your friends, your family, people who are around you. One of the antagonists, Senator Kelly, starts going off a list of all the different things that all these mutants can do. He points out a young girl from Chicago who has the ability to walk through walls. And what if this girl can walk into a bank? What if she can walk into the White House? What if she can walk into your homes? Positioning it as creating this list of mutants to keep the community safe. I also want to point out that this piece of media came out in the year 2000. This is before we had 9/11, it's before September 11th, it's before Homeland Security, it's before we had ICE, before we had TSA. And the point of this media was to try and showcase what can happen if we allow surveillance, if we allow our fears to guide what we action by. So the point that I'm getting with on all of this is, yes, there will always be the selling of these FLOK cameras or security cameras as being a tool to keep us all safe. But I remind you that the message of this this media, this movie, is that it comes at such a great cost to everyone. And that includes marginalized individuals in your community. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Adrian Higgs. And on deck could be Diane Dobson.
Adrian Higgs, resident of Renton. Ladies and gentlemen of the council, I know that the community has talked to you at length about FLOK and their practices. However, please do not take our comments to be only about FLOK. All of these ALPR cameras and companies operate under near identical paradigms of harvesting our information and selling it, either directly or selling data derivatives such as AI training to other parties. Gathering information in this manner is harmful to everyone in Renton, citizen, official, and officer alike. Even with the most bulletproof of contracts, you are still gathering information together in a format that can be leaked or hacked. And that doesn't even get into the constitutional rights that are being violated by the existence of these cameras or the extremely questionable and unquantified utility to our police officers. If the FLOK contract is not refreshed, that is not a mandate to go look for another camera manufacturer. The entire premise of this type of surveillance is flawed, and we will still be here if the logo on the side of the camera changes. For the safety of the citizens of Renton, cancel the FLOK contract and do not allow this type of surveillance into our community. Thank you.
Next up is Diane Dobson with Dwayne Tran on deck.
For the timer, I'd like to acknowledge I'm here as a resident, but I'm also here with my mother, Vicki Dobson, who is the matriarch of our family. More than 150 years ago, before Renton was Renton, Native families used the surname Moses lived along the Black River. Then came the donation land claim era. White settlers arrived with papers giving them legal ownership to land where Native families were already living. The settlers had pieces of paper. The Moses family did not. As documented in From Coal to Jets, Henry Tobin, Renton's first white settler and the man for whom Tobin Street is named, arrived early in 1853. He initially allowed the Moses family to remain and keep their garden plots, but as more settlers arrived, more of their land was taken. One person who stood beside the Moses family over the years was my great-grandfather, Tom Dobson. He was their friend and attorney, and he fought to help them retain what land they could. Ultimately, about 1 acre remained along the Black River. That was the home of Jenny Moses, whose son Henry would become the last hereditary leader of the Duwamish tribe. The surrounding Moses family land became part of the expansion of Renton High School, including the new school that was built in 1932. In 1956, the final acre where the Moses home stood became part of the Renton School District. The relationship between our families continued. After Henry died, my grandfather John helped to establish a trust to care for Henry's widow Christina through the remainder of her life, and later helped lay her to rest with Henry at Mount Olivet Cemetery. And now, generations later, The Tobin Street property is before us again for another Renton High School expansion. The city is considering vacating that property to the school district without payment because the city itself was not originally charged for it. This is not about assigning blame to today's city or to the school district. None of us created this history, but we inherited it, and we get to decide what we do with it. Because the fact that the city did not pay for this land does not mean it came without a cost. Someone paid for it. The Moses family paid for it. The Duwamish people paid for it. And that brings me to 2025. Washington's Houston Eminent Domain Fairness Act passed unanimously, recognizing the principle that under certain circumstances, land taken for public purpose should have an opportunity to return to those from whom it came. I know that law does not apply here, and I'm not asking you to apply the law. I'm asking you to consider its intent. Before assigning no monetary value to the vacation of the Tobin Street, I asked the city, the school district, and the Duwamish tribe to explore a lawful way for the value represented by the street vacation to support a meaningful cultural and historical partnership with or contribution benefiting the Duwamish tribe. Not because the law requires it, but because history has given us an opportunity. More than a century ago, people stood beside the Moses family and fought to help them hold on to what remained. Today, Renton has an opportunity to stand beside them again. We cannot give Jenny her home back, and we cannot return this land to Henry, but we can acknowledge who paid the original price for it. And after more than a century, together, we have a chance to give something back.
You. Wayne Tron, I believe, is virtual, and then Ellie Robershaw is also virtual, I believe.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Good evening, City Council. My name is Dwayne Trahan, and I lead street outreach for the Lord We Love. My perspective comes from being on the streets. I spend my time going into places where people are in crisis, de-escalating situations, and building enough trust that someone will hopefully accept a pathway out. When you work on the streets, you quickly understand how fast people and vehicles move. A woman can be standing in front of you 1 minute and gone the next. Someone exploiting her can pull up in a vehicle, move her somewhere else, and suddenly law enforcement and outreach teams are trying to figure out where she went. That's why I support turning the block cameras on. Outreach is about relationship and trust. Cameras will never replace that. But when something becomes dangerous, when someone disappears, or when law enforcement is looking for a vehicle connected to violence or exploitation, having another tool available matters. I also believe good public safety helps street outreach. The more information law enforcement has to address the people causing the violence and the exploitation, the more safely people like me can continue doing the work of outreach. Those who need us. I see firsthand how vulnerable people become when they are living outside. They are targeted because people know they are vulnerable. We should be making it harder for people to exploit them, not easier. Please give law enforcement another responsible tool to find people committing violence and help us to protect the people we are trying to reach. Turn the cameras on. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And next up is Ellie Robershaw, and following Ellie will be Gabrielle Russell.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Hi, my name is Ellie Robershaw, and I'm in Renton. I'm calling in to urge the Renton City Council to not renew their contract with FLOK Safety. The terms of the city's contract with FLOK gives FLOK access to a lot of data about the movement of people inside Renton with very little control or limits on how they can use it. The contract gives FLOK perpetual and irrevocable access to Renton's non-anonymized data, to the data collected by all these cameras on the roads, to improve services, which includes training artificial intelligence, which of course is very profitable for FLOK, great for FLOK. Actually, there's nothing for us, and we're just giving that away. The contract also states that Renton's footage may be used, preserved, and shared with law enforcement government officials and or third parties if FLOK has, quote, a good faith belief to do so during the 30-day retention period. FLOK is a private company. I don't even know what good faith means. I know you don't need a warrant for that. It just kind of sounds like they can share whatever they want to whoever they want, as long as they can then claim good faith, which I just don't love the sound of that, especially considering like the larger climate that we're in right now, with ICE and et cetera. Also in today's committee of the whole, the police admitted they don't even have the ability to turn off the cameras themselves, which definitely surprised me. They can ask FLOK to turn off the cameras and I guess just trust that they actually will. Which just to me, that's a little weird. Do we own anything about this technology? It sounds like we're giving away a lot here for little if any benefit. I'm asking the city council and the mayor, just asking you, please decide with the community safety and well-being over propping up the profit margins of a private tech company and giving away quite a bit of data to them. Just giving away a lot. Please do not renew the city's contract with FLOK. Please take down the cameras from our roads. Thank you.
Right, thank you. All right, Gabriel Russell with Jen Nix Yates on deck.
Hi, I'm Gabe Russell, Renton, Washington. I want to talk about FLOK, but I want to zoom out a bit and talk about data and trust briefly. So companies that handle your data give you the illusion of control and protection, but companies can't give guarantees about data security. They can only mitigate risks about data security. I work related to data security. Nobody makes guarantees. You can talk about security controls, you can talk about encryption, retention limits, but those are just promises. It takes one bad actor, one disgruntled employee, one human error, one faulty line of code for those promises to be broken and your information to be leaked. So it comes down to trust. And you seem to trust companies like FLOK to protect and handle this data properly, but they can't. How often do you hear about personal data breaches? It seems commonplace now. Dozens of companies, ADT, Equifax, Dell, AT&T, Kaiser, United Health, Ticketmaster, T-Mobile, the FBI, the National Guard, U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs, Office of Personnel Management, all been hacked, all had data breaches, customer or employee personal data. So just an interesting thing about turning off the cameras briefly, there was an article a few days ago about the town of Littleton, Massachusetts, who had their cameras turned off similarly to us for similar reasons. But they found out recently that 5 of their cameras were switched back on by the company without any notification or permission. So they went out and flipped the breakers on those cameras to be sure they were turned off. So does that sound like a trustworthy company to you? Like, what are they doing? What else are they doing without any kind of notification or permission? Collecting this data and putting it in the hands of private companies exposes us all to the dangers of misuse by bad actors. What happens when a disgruntled employee accesses this data and uses it to stalk somebody? What are you going to do about it? What if it happens to you? What if it happens to any of us? This isn't just about FLOK or Axon. It's about using our money to pay a private company to gather data en masse about us, data that none of us can ever really control. The only way to prevent data from being misused is to not collect it in the first place. If it doesn't exist, it can't be mishandled, it can't be misused, attacked, exfiltrated, or sold. If these devices are not providing any clear, strong benefit to our city and our society, then they exist as an erosion of our privacy, and it's not worth the risk. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Jen Nix Yates, and then on deck is Christine Moreland.
Hello, Council. My name is Jen Nix Yates, and I am a newer resident here in Renton. I am what many refer to as a homebody. My job is demanding, and I like to come home and spend my evenings with my husband and my dog, and one of my biggest fears is stirring the pot. I am one of the many hardworking residents in King County, and the fact that I'm up here facing my second largest fear, which is public speaking, you know that means something is wrong. FLOK cameras are a massive invasion of privacy, and this level of surveillance has been taken too far. The only argument for FLOK cameras are they help authorities catch bad guys. But does that mean the trade-off is we are all treated like criminals? Does that mean police get to watch all of us without provocation, without a warrant? I don't remember voting yes for this unconstitutional infringement in my life. And as someone that works within the tech industry, Enough questions have not been answered about FLOK cameras and how they are used, mainly when it comes to oversight and privacy. Where is all this data being stored? Constantly running cameras means terabytes worth of data. Is our daily commute, errand running, and trips with our loved ones being stored in some unmarked data center using up all of our water? Also, how long is this data stored for? Who has access to it? How is that access granted? Can any police officer without any kind of supervision just watch any of this data? What happens in the case of a data breach, which has just been mentioned? Our information is leaked constantly and sold to the highest bidder. Can some random person thousands of miles away see what I drive and where I go? Technology isn't inherently good or evil. The question is whether the limits on government power keeps pace with this technology. The Fourth Amendment exists because the government should have a legitimate reason before tracking and watching innocent people. These cameras reverse that principle. FLOK cameras treat everyone as suspect. When people know that the government can reconstruct where they have been, they then start changing perfectly legal behavior. That isn't freedom. Public safety matters, but also so does privacy. We shouldn't have to choose one over the other. I urge this council to reject this contract and reject the use of FLOK cameras in our community. Once mass surveillance becomes the norm, it is very hard to undo. We have the opportunity now to choose privacy instead. Thank you for your time.
Next up is Christine Moreland virtually, and then on deck is Leslie Jensen. Christine, are you with us?
You're muted, Christine.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Thank you. Hi there, Council. Thank you for having me today. I'm the Executive Director of The More We Love. For more than 25 years, I've done street outreach in King County. At The More We Love, we create pathways out of homelessness, addiction, domestic violence, and human trafficking. We are right here in Renton, opening our crisis center 24/7 to women and children, the most vulnerable. I have thought deeply about the FLOK cameras because I would never support a tool that I believe would be used against the very people I'm advocating for. I do understand the concerns and I think about them and I take them serious, but I also believe that we can address those concerns through strong policy, clear limitations around how we are using the technology and oversight. We can do this responsibly. What I don't believe we should do is make a decision based only on fear, however, while ignoring what this technology can really do. Have you ever been a victim of violence? These cameras can provide law enforcement with critical information when investigating these crimes. They help identify the vehicles connected to the violence, the trafficking, and the domestic violence. I sit in these spaces with these women who have been violated in these ways, and I promise you, these cameras would have done many things to save their lives. After 25 years in the streets, I know how quickly somebody can disappear, how this violence can take place, and we know we need to protect our communities while also protecting the most vulnerable. There's concern about this technology and how it could be used, then let's put safeguards in place. Let's review the policies, require responsibility, and even use third-party monitoring if we need to. But let's not remove a tool that can help us solve crimes. And again, I want to be clear, I trust the Renton Police Department. The city is invested in the police department. We ask these officers every day to respond to incredible, difficult situations. So let's give them the tools to do their job, with the policies and accountability to ensure that they're done right. After 25 years of doing this work, I can tell you this information matters. Accountability matters. When somebody is in danger, time matters. There's been several major shootings, even here on the streets of Seattle, one up on Aurora, and this camera that was AI available identified the perpetrator. We need these tools. They help when there's crimes being committed against the most vulnerable. Please turn these cameras on.
Okay, thank you. All right, next up is Leslie Jensen, and we have Nicholas Dunlap on deck.
Hi, Leslie Jensen, East Renton Highlands. Just here to do my little weekly update with new FLOK information that I've searched for and found. Today, I wanted to go over the list of cities that have decided to cancel their FLOK contract or pause it. In California, that would be Santa Cruz, canceled in 2026 after discovering data was accessed by out-of-state agencies and shared with ICE. Mountain View disabled all 30 cameras on February 3rd, 2026, after an audit revealed ATF, Air Force, and GSA Inspector Generals had unauthorized access. In Oxnard, they suspended theirs on February 27th, 2026, after an audit found data was shared with federal agencies through a nationwide query, a setting that violated state law. South Pasadena council canceled the contract for 14 cameras after reports that Southern California agencies illegally shared FLOK data with federal immigration agents. Foothill de Anza Community College District discontinued their contract, covered their camera lenses since February 15th, 2006, and disabled all data sharing. The Los Angeles Police Department let its 3-year contract expire on July 11th, 2026 due to unresolved issues regarding data ownership, sharing, privacy safeguards, and civil liberties, with the department citing serious concerns over how the collected data could be used and stored. In Colorado, Denver removed all 110 cameras when their contract expired March 31st, 2026, replaced with 15 Axon cameras under strict data controls. In Illinois, Evanston canceled their contract, later caught FLOK attempting to reinstall cameras after cancellation. In Massachusetts, the city of Cambridge canceled in late 2025 after FLOK Security installed 2 cameras without city authorization. In Oregon, Eugene terminated their contract in December 2025 after a camera was reactivated without authorization. In Springfield, they ended their agreement December 2025 before cameras even went live. In Bend, they removed 4 cameras in January of 2026, citing security concerns and federal compliance fears. In Arizona, Flagstaff ended their agreement in December 2025, just over resident pushback over data sharing concerns. In Texas, Austin canceled in June 2025 after residents pushed back over ICE data sharing and wrongful arrest risks. APD later found a loophole to keep using the cameras through other agencies in February 2026. In Virginia, in a city called Staunton, Police Chief Jim Williams terminated the contract December 19, 2025, removing all stationary ALPR cameras. And in Washington State, Linwood was the first city to cancel their active FLOK contract.
Right, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right. Next up is Nicholas Dunlap with Patricia Oglamola on deck. Is Nicholas there? No Nicholas for us?
Mayor, I am having technical difficulties back here. I do see Nicholas. We might need to circle back. Sorry.
Okay, I'm going to go to the next one. We'll come back to Nicholas. Okay, let's go with Patricia Oglamola, right?
Good evening, council members. My name is Patricia Oglamola, and I live in Renton. I want to speak about 2 issues tonight, starting with FLOK. Last week, Councilmember Albertson asked, "Are we saying that we don't trust the police?" That question has stayed with me because, quite frankly, it felt rhetorical. It felt more like rage bait than a serious response to the concerns that residents have repeatedly raised. Many Renton residents have stood before this council and said that they do not trust the police. I am one of them. I'm a Renton resident, and I do not trust the police. Our concerns should not be dismissed simply because the answer to that question may be uncomfortable. But this was never just about trusting the police. Residents have raised serious concerns about FLOK, about privacy, about being tracked, and about where all that information could end up. The cameras were turned off, then they were reactivated without telling the public. So yes, trust matters, but trust should never be a substitute for accountability. And why should the public be required to rely on trust when the council has the power to remove the risk altogether? Residents have repeatedly asked you to reconsider this program. Do not renew the FLOK contract. I also want to address the Renton High expansion. I keep hearing the word equity used to justify this expansion, but the school district itself has acknowledged the native history of this land. Duwamish people lived here. And now, in the name of equity, we are taking more land, including public streets, in part for a baseball and softball field. So I have to ask, how many times are we going to watch the school district take land and call it equity? We already know what happened to the Houston family. the district acquired their land for a school that was never built. And now we're talking about land with deep Duwamish history for a baseball field. So who is this equitable for? Equity cannot just be a label used in presentations. Our commitment to equity disappears the moment it becomes inconvenient. If our commitment to equity disappears the moment it becomes inconvenient, then it was never equity, it was performative. We cannot say that we honor Native history while treating the land beneath that history as an obstacle standing between us and a baseball field. You cannot create equity by taking from the very communities that equity is supposed to protect. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, are we ready for Nicholas? And then on deck, also virtual, is Shaylee McLavy.
Hello?
Hello, we can hear you, Nicholas.
Excellent. Good evening, City Council. I'm Nicholas Dunlap. I'm a resident of Renton. Thank you for granting me the time to speak with you today. For the last 25 years, American politics has been a constant stage to the discussion of privacy versus security. And regardless of where any individual stands on that debate, the FLOK cameras are a failing prospect. Between the lack of data showing real success due to this technology, and the verified reports across the nation of them being used in stalking, in voyeurism, of being activated against city ordinances, and specifically telling them to remain off, there's a real possibility that these cameras have been party to more crimes than they have actually solved. I understand the desire to safeguard your community. I respect it. But these cameras are a net negative even before we consider the actual costs. Plenty of speakers have already covered the problems inherent in massive amounts of public data being stored in the private company servers, and there is already a history of unlawful use. But I don't believe such arguments even need to be considered if the cameras can't do the job that they're supposedly here to do. A simple Google search has shown me over a dozen women who have been stalked and harassed using these cameras, even children's spaces that have been spied on. And I don't believe that I don't believe that these cameras make us safer. And I believe that they should be therefore shut down and removed as soon as possible.
All right. Next up is Shaylee McLavy with Stephanie Shields on deck.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Shaylee McLavy, and I'm here tonight as someone who knows what it means. Oh, let me introduce myself. I'm a sex trafficking survivor who's been with the More We Love for 2 years. And I'm here tonight as someone who knows what it means to be trafficked. I was trafficked and kidnapped at the age of 17. I know what it feels like when someone else controls where you go, who you see, and whether or not you get to leave. This is why this conversation is personal to me. When you are being trafficked, vehicles matter. Movement matters. The people controlling you don't want anyone to know where you are going. I think about the 17-year-old version of myself when I think about these cameras. If there had been another tool that could have helped law enforcement locate a vehicle connected to the person hurting me, I would have wanted them to have it. When you are a victim, you aren't thinking about politics. You aren't thinking about a debate over technology. You are thinking, will someone find me? Will someone know where I'm being taken to? Will somebody come? There are girls and women out there experiencing violence and exploitation right now who cannot stand in front of you and advocate for themselves, but I can. So I'm asking that you think about them when you make this decision. Give law enforcement every responsible tool available to find the people who are hurting them, and when possible, help find the women and girls who need someone looking for them. I survived. There are others out there still wanting to be found. Please turn these cameras on. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next up is Stephanie Shields with Zach Moore on deck.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I cannot see Stephanie Shield logged in online.
Okay, thank you. Zach Moore with John Houston on deck.
Hello, Zach Moore, City of Renton. Thank you to everyone who voted to cover the ALPRs. Appreciate that. I'd like to note that we are opposed to all ALPRs and mass surveillance. Canceling the FLOK contract only to replace it with some other provider is unacceptable and will also be met with resistance. I must also note that people overwhelmingly speak up to tell you they don't want mass surveillance. The first we've heard any pro FLOK voices is this clearly put together group, The More We Love, which appears to have some weird right-wing connections. So take that with a grain of salt. But this should make it pretty clear what your choice should be on this matter. Regarding the ban on quote-unquote camping on city property, I would like to ask the council to reject this ban. The wording may call for a $1,000 fine for 90 days in jail, but we all know that if these people could come up with $1,000, they probably wouldn't be living on the streets. This ban only serves to criminalize poverty and to funnel people into the carceral state while doing nothing to address the root causes of poverty and homelessness. Additionally, it guarantees that a person being thrown in jail will be released with even fewer resources like clothing and shelter than they had before. If the purpose of this action is to reduce crime, then creating even greater desperation among already desperate people is an obvious failure. You may be thinking they can always leave Renton, but that's a farcical notion and a sick game of musical chairs being forced on people who are already struggling. If you're not offering permanent, low-barrier housing, then you're not being serious. Implementing this ban would be inhumane, a waste of resources at best, and doing nothing would be better. Please vote no. Thank you.
All right, next up is John Houston with Alice Lockridge on deck.
John Houston, 72-year resident of Renton. I'm not here to talk about the cameras, but I did see, watch national news this morning of a mother and her children being stopped, being mistaken, guns drawn. It was in Milwaukee. You can Google it. Guns drawn. I've been kind of back and forth with the cameras because I support the police. But to see that mother and her children with guns drawn and a police car that says City of Milwaukee on the side. So I'm here in opposition to vacating Tobin Street. The Renton School District has done enough harm in this city for a long time. Black River Alternative School was gotten rid of. That name it was named Tally for superintendent's uncle. The Black River, the source of food resources for the Duwamish tribe, was diverted, dried up. The land that Renton High School sits on, Duwamish property, and now the vacation of Tobin Street. That's the last inkling or thought about the Duwamish being here in Renton, and they're a big part of Renton. I can't read from a piece of paper, but a big part of Renton. When that street sign is gone, the Duwamish tribe is gone. Is that what we want? Renton School District has money, but they come to the city of Renton for money. Salaries go up in the Renton School District. They take houses of people who are barely making it. We deserve better than that. We are better than that. For a pretty new building, yes, the students of Renton High School deserve what the other schools get, Lindbergh, Hazen, and Tally. They deserve that. But the people who have paid tax dollars to this city deserve us all to look out for each other. We all deserve that. We come here for a reason.
Thank you very much.
So I hope Tobin Street can be saved. Thank you.
Next up is Alice Lockridge with Matthew Long on deck.
Hello, I'm Alice Lockridge. I live in Renton, and I'm here to talk not about 25 years of history or 5 or a year and a half of a contract, but 170 years of history on Tobin Street. I too am opposed to erasing the history of the people that were on Tobin Street. I made one little marker for the first 19 I know about that lived on Tobin Street. So I'm appealing to the city council to preserve the history of these people. I want to start with the first person and the famous people that we've talked about. Henry Tobin was the first white settler to use a donation land claim to get land, and he took enough for himself and his wife Diana, and he died within 3 years. So we're starting at 1856, he died. Then his son, Charles, then his wife, Diana, who also married another settler, Erasmus Smithson. And then the next one chronologically that died was a little sister in the Moses family who drowned in the Black River. Frank Moses, also a brother of Henry. We have more than one Native American in this history, and I am sure that Henry Moses was great. I can read about it, but there were a lot of people even in his family. Eliza James was the mother of a baby born outside of wedlock to Henry Tobin, and has a lot of Tobins that I'll talk about that lived there. Erasmus Smithers died next, then James Moses, Henry Moses's brother, then Charles, another brother of the Moses family, then Laura Moses, his first wife, who only lived in Renton for a year before she died. James Tobin was the native Duwamish, half Duwamish person from Henry Moses's extramarital affair. Lois Tobin also was the next. Then Jenny, who is Henry Moses's mama, and Adela Smithers. She was the first child of Diana after she married the Smithers, and she spoke native languages, and I understand at least once ran federal agents off the land to make them leave the Moses family alone. Then would be Joseph Moses, the oldest child of Jenny and the oldest brother of Henry. And then Henry Moses died in 1969. The next person would have been Christina Moses, Henry's wife. Then we get to Angelina Tobin Frank. Angelina is in the Tobin family there, and she's the granddaughter of Henry Moses. And she's the mother of Billy Frank Jr., who all of you probably heard of, that was involved in the decision that made sure that natives could fish in the native way. So very historical people came and lived off of Tobin Street. And if we take down that sign and don't have any houses on it, and nobody ever grows up having Tobin as their address, the history is at risk of being erased.
Right. Next up is Matthew Long with Amy on deck.
Hello, Council. My name is Matthew Lang. Good evening. I grew up in Renton. I've lived here a great portion of my life. I'm a small business owner here as well. First off, I want to start by stating that I do want to make sure that this FLOK contract gets ended and that we move on from that. And stand in solidarity with the speakers that have spoken about that already. What I'm really here to talk about, though, is the camping ordinance. As someone who has worked deeply in encampments for many years, I was part of the community engagement work group that helped stand up the KCRHA. I have a lot of knowledge that I can bring to the table on this. I'm looking forward to having a conversation with y'all about it. But this looks a lot like a 2014 camping ordinance that did not pass in Seattle. And one of the big reasons why it did not pass was because it allowed the police to have uniform authority over homeless response. What came out of that conversation, though, was something called an MDAR, Multi-Departmental Administrative Rule. So the Seattle Police Department, Seattle Public Utilities, Seattle Parks, Financial Administrative Services all had specific functions in how they treated the homeless response, not just underneath the police officers, right? And we have many different ways that our city can function to help folks that are living on the streets. Incarcerating them is not one of them. Putting people in the carceral system is the best way to destabilize them. The recidivism rates of people who go into the system once are drastically higher than if someone was given help. If housing first is the universal model that we need to be working off of, then putting someone in a prison is not that. And if you want to talk about fiscal responsibility, it costs about twice as much every year to put someone in a prison versus giving them housing. That's all I got to say, y'all. It's 2026. Let's learn from the mistakes of the past. Happy to have conversations with any of you council members, mayor, about this in the future. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next up is Amy with Cheryl Freeze on deck.
Good evening. My name is Amy, resident of Renton. Thank you to the council members who voted to cover the city's FLOK cameras last week. I'm here to ask you first to oppose the proposed camping ban ordinance that criminalizes homelessness without any realistically available housing resources. The 2-year Bloomberg Harvard Fellowship program that this council recently approved to address and examine homelessness in Renton is only just starting this month. I think it would be premature to act first and learn later. So second, I ask you to terminate the city's contract with FLOK. We are not against cameras, okay? The speakers from The More We Love are valid and they're not wrong. Cameras are a tool to protect victims. We are against private, non-localized cloud service providers such as FLOK managing our cameras and the footage they obtained. Since Renton signed this contract in June 2024, FLOK's terms and conditions changed in December 2025 and in February 2026. FLOK reserves the right to change their terms as they see fit, as many cloud service providers do. The terms Renton signed in 2024 are not the current terms. The terms are on FLOK's website. When the contract was originally signed in June 2024, Section 11.6 stated that, I think as Moynihan pointed out, contract disputes would be handled in King County Superior Court. As of February 2026, this section states that contract disputes are to be arbitrated in Georgia and to be governed by Georgia law. FLOK is based in Georgia. How is a Washington law going to regulate a private company in Georgia? By signing the contract, Renton has surrendered the right to enforce Washington's SB 6002 retention periods or any other applicable law and added a perpetual to the already irrevocable right to use our data to train their AI forever. So Washington law didn't stop backdoor access in 2024 or 2025, and it won't stop it moving forward. Not to mention the costs associated with liability. Several sections in the contract, especially Section 9.1, exempts FLOK from liability for any reason, including gross negligence and willful misconduct. As discovered by Roseville, California's police department, these cameras misread license plates up to 71% of the time. AI errors have caused innocent people across the country to be pulled over mistakenly and sometimes repeatedly and violently. A man in Toledo, Ohio was awarded $35,000 in damages after a plate misread and subsequent stop went awry. A similar settlement was won for $45,000 in California. These cameras have created more victims than secured justice for victims. All that for a technology that data has been shown to be largely ineffective across the country. While Renton doesn't collect clearance rate data, Atlanta Police Department does. The biggest difference before and after implementing FLOK cameras was actually a 5.4 decrease in homicide clearance rates between 2021 and 2025. The Berkeley, California Police Accountability Board found that ALPRs did not result in a reduction of crime generally or auto theft specifically during the period measured. Please terminate the FLOK contract and vote no on the camping ban. Thank you.
All right, next up is Cheryl Freeze with Courtney Stepp on deck.
Cheryl Freeze, Renton resident. I'm going to try to move quickly between three things.
So I had something entirely different written up on the FLOK cameras, but after sitting through 50 minutes of the committee of the whole, I just have one word, which is data. And the part that just blows my mind is my first conversation with RPD was almost 2 months ago to date. And if I were that passionate about something, I would have gone and gathered a ton of data. I would have been able to speak about the stack of documents on my desk and all of the examples that actually prove that FLOK is a great system to have. And instead, we still keep getting the same 1 or 2 examples. So without data, how do we trust that it actually is going to do any good for this city? I'm just so disappointed by that. So what I want to say is we recommend that the contract be terminated immediately and that a date be set for the cameras to be covered and a date set for the cameras to be removed. Now I also want to pivot into Tobin, but I want to talk about something a little bit different because I know everybody knows that we are opposed to Tobin being vacated. So I constantly drive Logan, Shattuck, and Airport and Tobin, and I have to tell you that based on the deplorable behavior of the Renton School Board and District, you would think that they would take time to keep the street clean. And I'm so heartbroken for El Kiosco about one thing. I'm so grateful that they've got a bigger space and they seem to be filling it. I've been there multiple times, but the part that blows my mind is they have now inherited toilet paper and trash that runs from their location all the way down Airport, all the way to Logan. So I'm going to request that we figure out how to help the Renton School Board and District do what they need to do, which is take care of the property, take care of the neighbors, and take care of the community. I also want to talk about the property on Carr and Benson, which I now call a mini Ion Renton, so the Park Avenue buildings. They have accrued $1,900 in fines, and the head shaking part about this is, will the fines get paid and will the property get cleaned up? The neighbors are exhausted. So this leads me to Ion and the Park Avenue buildings, which were at peak accruing $50,000 per day, and yet we understand they're fighting the fines and trying to have those waived. And as of February 2026, the fines exceeded $4.2 million. So I'm going to move really quickly to my closing comment, which is not only do we need term limits on the ballot, we need districts. And I'm going to say that because I have to wonder if city council members lived in these neighborhoods, if the issues would have been dealt with more quickly and ideally more proactively and more humanely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up is Courtney Stepp with Marissa Chong on deck.
Before I get started, I've asked 3 different people to turn on the closed captionings because as a hearing impaired person, your meeting isn't accessible. So if we could make that happen, that would be great. And I digress. Good evening, Mayor, members of the board. My name is Courtney, and I'm speaking as an individual and as a private citizen of the city of Renton this evening. I've lived in the city for nearly 12 years. I brought some literature with me. Some of you probably know what I do for my day job, but I'm a citizen tonight. People with Sparks by Jeannie Duprow. The Giver by Lois Lowry. Uglies by Scott Westerfeld. The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. And classic 1984 by George Orwell. What do all these books have in common? Their citizens are overly surveilled. Sorry, the citizens of these communities and these cities are under constant surveillance, and their life is in danger. There's no privacy, and all their behaviors are being tracked. In another book that actually talks about how to actually solve the solution of safety, Bell Hooks talks about safety and how trust is the foundation of building a community that can keep people safe. She brings up that gated communities are an example of the obsession of safety. ALPR and FLOK cameras are another example of this obsession with safety. But this kind of safety is a false sense of security. As an elected official of the city, the citizens are who you are representing tonight, and I am rising with my fellow citizens to demand that you do not turn on the ALPR cameras and cancel the contract with FLOK. Currently, less than 1% of the vehicles scanned by FLOK cameras are used in any crime. And when you say that the FLOK cameras have the ability to scan by car type, even without a plate, I don't hear an investigative tool. I hear yet another surveillance tool that the community members do not consent to. The cameras have already been used to assist in ICE kidnapping people without data being collected. We don't know if the cameras have been used to assist in the ICE kidnapping in our own community. The 24 FLOK cameras are not actually here to keep our community safe. A University of Washington report examining the camera usage revealed thousands of searches by U.S. Border Patrol using data from 31 law enforcement agencies. These cameras take away the power you have as a city council because of the lack of regulation. A couple of weeks ago at the Community Services Committee, I heard positive feedback about the Renton River Days event. I heard you mention of the improvements to downtown Renton, specifically Legacy Square. So my questions to you, as you lead our city, is what narrative do you want to spread about the safety in our city? What do you dream about for our city, and what does safety actually mean to you, and who do you actually want to keep safe? I'm imploring to you to keep the FLOK cameras off and cancel the contract. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up is Marissa Chong with Michael Westgard on deck.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Marissa Chong, and I'm a resident of Renton. I'm here to talk about the FLOK contract and that you should cease business with them and not renew your contract. After reviewing the FLOK contract that the mayor signed back in June of 2024, it seems that FLOK has a lot of access to the data after the police chief keeps saying over and over again that other agencies do not have access. It also says that FLOK may make any upgrades that it deems necessary or useful, which means they can do anything to the system. Also, regarding disclosure of footage, FLOK may access, preserve, and or disclose the footage to law enforcement authorities, government officials, and or third parties. How could the city of Renton and the mayor sign the contract with a vendor without having any questions or concerns about this language? I work for WashDOT. I was the design build site manager working with the contractor to administer design build construction contracts like the I-405 132nd Street interchange project up in Kirkland and the I-405 Brickyard to SR 527 improvement project in Bothell. My job as a WashDOT employee on a construction project is to make sure the contractor adheres to the WashDOT contract that was agreed to and signed. Thus, it seems odd to me that you would allow the company who you are paying to do a service to provide the contract for you to sign without any edits, questions, or ways for you as a city of Renton to hold the vendor accountable to ensure they are following your city guidelines. After observing the city of Renton and appointed staff for the past 4 months now, it is clear to me that most, not all, have been very delinquent in doing their homework and research thoroughly in order to make the right decision. And there is a bunch of lip service that is just not true. Has anyone ever heard the saying, trust but verify? What one person says is one thing, but then you need to go home and do your own research to find out if what you heard in fact is the truth. I shouldn't have to tell you this, you already know this, but instead, here we all are, not getting paid, and here week after week, with our time and effort outside our paid jobs, holding you accountable to convince you that this is a bad idea to be working with FLOK, not to mention to do all of this and get little to no response back for all the work we have done. This is only just one example of where we are finding these things. In the name of protecting our community, cancel and do not renew your contract with FLOK. Thank you.
Next up is Michael Westgard with Ken Workman on deck.
Thank you. Michael Westgard, resident Renton. Good evening, Council President, Council members, and Mr. Mayor. Thank you, and I appreciate your time. I'm here again to speak about ongoing issues with a focus on dismantling FLOK and protecting our unhoused community. First, I want to thank all the community members that have come out to try and add nuance, depth, and facts to these conversations, even though it has been largely dismissed by the mayor and certain council members. I also want to take a moment to share that I was feeling especially drained this morning after this last weekend, and I think it's a mixture of the internet world and the reality crashing together. I'm not sure if you've seen, but two hateful, useful idiots are trying to capture notoriety by claiming they will enter the WNBA draft. I found this disingenuous political stunt specifically upsetting because of the current ballot initiative targeting our girls' sports that are headed to the ballot in November. These attacks on disenfranchised communities over made-up issues when there are so many real issues we face as a nation, region, state, and community get no real attention have worn me down. That's because I see the similarity in these arguments for FLOK and the camping ban. They are opinion and not backed up by facts or logic. There are no statistics or metrics to see if FLOK was working or if what the police department was doing prior to the installation of the FLOK was successful or if it needed further investment. We should turn off the cameras or leave the cameras off, dismantle the system, and not renew the contract. The reasoning behind the camping ban is the same thing. We know enforcement first doesn't work because when the unhoused person is released, they still don't have a home or a place to live, but they have lost their personal items, making their life harder. We also know that the current presidential administration and the Republican-controlled Congress have cut federal funding for basically every program, except for the high T Department of War and tax cuts. That makes this enforcement model first even more nefarious. Instead, the city should take a time finding locations that they can improve for encampments, that have services on location, and try to create pathways to shelter and housing first. The mayor's administration could invest staff time into rental registry to both understand our market, but also where the shortcomings are. This will give us the data to address the housing crisis we face, and the mayor could also outlaw junk fees on rental properties to take on the housing costs that we are facing in our majority renter city. These are just some of the solutions to the problems we face. If we just focus on responding to the mind-numbing arguments of dishonest actors with vested interests and problems staying in place, we will get nowhere. So in closing, I just want to give a shout out to all my neighbors and community members that have come together to take on this fight for a better Renton.
Thank you very much.
It gives me hope, and I love you for that.
All right, next up is Ken Workman with Adam Dibba online.
Autorituhaka dishipa dachasalika atatatawav duams. Autorituhak diishid Peter James sali hati hitachtola. Aslakel mi man duav sali adishipa. That what I was just saying to you in our own native language, that a long time ago there were a whole bunch of Duwamish that lived right here. That the Peter James family lived right here. That the Johnny Moses family, the Henry Moses family lived right here. I am workman of the Duwamish tribe. And that just means my relatives and that. Actually, it means great-great-great-great-grandson of Chief Seattle I am. So I've retired out of the Boeing company many years ago now as a systems and data analyst. And so I'm here to talk about Tobin Street and the importance of that place on this area and the people that live there. Because we as Native people know that we are part of a place, and we have known this since the Ice Age. We have been here for 14,000 years. And our bones and our DNA are in the ground. And so when you hear us talking about land acknowledgement, you don't hear people acknowledgement in that. You don't hear tribal acknowledgement in that. You hear land acknowledgement. Because what we're talking about is what's in the ground. And we know that through the studies of Dr. Susan Samard at the University of British Columbia, that whatever's in the ground ends up in the root systems of the trees, of the berries, of the grass, and that we are part of this place. And so what you're doing to Tobin Street is very important to us. And that whatever's in that ground stays in that ground. That's because our relatives are there. And when you do construction in that land, it's like driving a metal plate between our ancestors and the people that are present today. And so when you're talking about historic trauma, this is part of it. You have divided us from our ancestors. And so I would implore you that if you're going to do this construction, that you at least maintain a sign that says there were Duwamish here, that the Duwamish continue to exist, and this is what they look like. A person by the name of Ken Werpman who is speaking to you today. Thank you.
All right, next up is Adam Dibba with Katie Petty.
Okay. Good evening to you all. My name is Adam Dibba, founder and executive director of Africans on the East Side. I recently moved into Renton, but I've been in the East Side doing this work for decades. I'm asking the Renton Council member to cancel its contract with FLOK Safety and permanently remove the cameras from our community. FLOK cameras continuously collect license plate and vehicle information from ordinary citizens who are not suspected of committing any crime. People cannot meaningfully consent to this or control how their information may be accessed or shared. This technology is especially concerning for us immigrants. I am an immigrant from the Gambia, and I work with immigrants, refugees, survivors of domestic violence, people seeking health care, and families who already fear government systems. Connected through this network create risks of unauthorized access, indirect data sharing, errors, discrimination, and future policy changes. Temporarily turning off or covering the camera is not enough. As long as the contract remains active, the cameras could be restarted in our community anytime. I respectfully ask the city of Renton to cancel its contract with FLOK Safety, permanently remove all FLOK cameras, require the secure deletion of previously collected data, publish a final report identifying how the system was used and which agencies received access, investor savings in community-based safety, youth services, mental health, resources, housing support, and trusted relationship between the residents and local government. Public safety must be our privacy, dignity, civil rights, and trust. Renting should not require everyone to surrender their privacy to investigate the actions of a few. Please cancel the FLOK for the safety of our community.
Okay, next up is Katie Pedley, and on deck is Tina Harris.
Hi, my name is Katie Penalty. We should not renew the FLOK contract. Allowing FLOK surveillance in Renton hands over data on our vulnerable friends, family, and community members to ICE and the federal government. There are no safeguards we can put in place to prevent this. It's out of our hands. ICE and the federal government have given us no reason to believe they'll use this data responsibly or treat our community with respect or offer us any safety or protection. So quite the opposite, in fact. It fuels ICE's ability to carry out raids, inhumane arrests, and even killings, and we'd be doing it to our own community. Why would we willingly, knowingly endanger our community members like that? Thank you.
Next up is Tina Harris with Gabriel Welding on deck.
Good evening. Good evening, Mayor Pavone, council members, and Renton residents. I'm a little bit under the weather, so bear with me. Thank you. My name is Tina Harris, and I'm the victim advocate here at the City of Renton with the Renton Police Department. I'm here to speak on the topic of the FLOK cameras. I appreciate the fluid discussion on the safety and the concerns that others and those here have. And I do appreciate the community members that have voiced the concerns with FLOK. I also appreciate the dedication and thoroughness of the City Attorney's Office, the Police Department, and the vendors that have worked to develop this contract with safeguards in place to make sure that the information is being stored and used in the most effective way possible, and to be in compliance with Senate Bill 6002. I want to thank the council for taking the necessary time to really vet the concerns of our community members and really look into what is in the best interest of all community members. But I can come before you tonight from a different perspective. I come from the perspective of working with the victims in their community where their family members have passed away, who've died due to homicide, homicidal violence, domestic violence, sex trafficking, child abduction. And although I respect each and every community member that has stood up here today and does not want the FLOK camera, I sit across from these families, your community members. It's not a matter of if, but when somebody here, somebody out in our community is going to be a member of a violent crime. With the use of the FLOK cameras, they can assist law enforcement in being able to find these individuals that have committed the most heinous crimes against our community members. I have the utmost respect from our marginalized communities. I see it through that lens. I too am Hispanic. I grew up in Eastern Washington. I grew up during the time where our orchards had raids. I don't forget that. So I have a lot of respect for the concerns of our community members that have spoken here today. But I can't sit here and be a victim advocate for the community at large and not think of those who are not here and don't have a voice, whereby those cameras have helped solve the crime. So I thank each and every one of you. And at the end of the day, I respect whatever decision you make. And I also respect the community members, but I'd like the cameras to stay on. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next up is Gabriel Wilding, and Brian Dang is on deck.
Hi, Gabrielle Weidling. I think we all know me at this point. Good to see you all. I had the pleasure of sitting in on the, as we all call it, cow, I guess. That was fun. And I do want to talk about two very distinct things I noticed there. And they were the wonderful preparedness and metric gathering of RMAC, the Renton Municipal Arts Commission, who talked about measuring their impact of art on our community with artists engaged, event attendance, all sorts of stats, all sorts of metrics that they are gathering to measure success and whatnot. And then on the other hand, we had our police chief and a couple other cops here to talk about the FLOK contract, and they had a whole lot of, I don't know, but I can look that up, which I appreciate. I'd rather you look something up than give me a BS answer, but I don't understand how you come to a meeting where you know that the purpose is to talk to you about the contract with FLOK. That's your job. If I showed up that unprepared to a meeting, I'd be fired. In the same way that if I got 10% of things wrong at my job, I'd be fired. In the way that FLOK gets 10% of its data wrong. And it results in things like that mother and that child having their car pulled over and having guns drawn and pointed at them, as was referenced in Milwaukee. I also want to talk a little bit about the camping ban. We might jump back to FLOK if I've got time. I'm not in favor of the camping ban. I think that's apparent by previous comments. I think that's apparent by everything I've ever said. I'm not in favor of it. You want to move forward with this bill, or at least bringing it to the dais to discuss and potentially vote on, but you're doing it where your own study hasn't started or been completed, which again, I think we don't need that study. We have years and years and years, decades of studies about how to help homeless people across the globe, including the United States, including Washington. We can use that information. But if we're going to do that study, why are we moving before it? Why are we doing it when we don't have the resources in place to help these people? The other thing I want to talk about is that from, I believe it was the Renton Reporter, I might be getting the paper wrong, but this quote from our own mayor, this approach combines compassion and accountability and offers a pathway out of homelessness. We can no longer make people comfortable in their misery. It's time to try something new. Camping bans are not new. This is old technology. This is bad technology. Why are we doing this thing? But perhaps that is something that does not occur to people that are in power in our city who have healthy bank accounts and multiple properties, lake houses, etc. Maybe you don't think about how that's actually old technology and how that's going to hurt our city, just like FLOK is hurting our city right now and has been. Cancel the FLOK contract, get rid of the cameras, don't pass a camping ban. Please let me stop coming here on Monday nights.
All right, thank you. Next up is Brian Dang with Yakim, I believe it is, up next.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is Brian Dang. I live in King County unincorporated, but I'm always here in Renton. I get my groceries at Wajimaya. I would shop at PetSmart for my late cat. I have one too many Calyx shelves from IKEA. And I even bought my car here. But you may already know that because my license plate has been logged on FLOK cameras. I'm here tonight to urge Renton to cancel its contract with FLOK and not renew any future contract with FLOK, Axon, or any other surveillance company. On July 18th, like everyone here, I received a loud Amber Alert on my phone about a man who assaulted someone, kidnapped his daughter, and was armed. And then on my way home, I saw an electronic billboard showing the same information. My friend asked me a great question. Why don't they already know where he is? I didn't fully understand what she meant at first. Then she clarified. With automatic license plate reader cameras and other forms of surveillance everywhere, she expected cops would find any vehicle or person of interest instantly. Nope. He just turned himself in days later. The cameras did nothing to catch him. The thing about ALPRs and surveillance cameras is they don't actually achieve safety or security. Here's an example of surveillance. If a thief is stealing a package from your front door and your doorbell camera records it, it's not doing any more than getting footage. You can go viral on TikTok. You might get lucky and see the thief's license plate on the camera, and maybe weeks or months later, a cop might look it up on the FLOK database after deprioritizing your case because your package value was too low, but it's too late. None of that matters. The deed is already done. The statistic increased by 1, no matter what the camera did. Let me give you another example of surveillance. When I was a teacher, I was forced to watch footage from the Columbine shooting because a defense contractor was trying to sell us his training to teachers. The cameras did nothing. The shooting was already in progress. The body count was going up. The only way to reduce crime is to prevent the number from going up in the first place by improving people's life outcomes. You and I would not rob a gas station mini market. Our life needs are met. Instead of spending more on surveillance, Renton could put more spending into schools, libraries, counselors.
Okay, next up is Joaquin. Maybe I'm saying it wrong. Joa.
Just clarifying, was that at Jansen Hillis as a Renton resident? Is that the correct one?
No, not Jansen. Nope. You're the very last here. I'm sorry, I can't read that. What is that? I thought it was Joaquin.
It looks like Joaquin.
Looks like Joaquin.
It might have been Ken, but I don't know if he's here.
Joaquin Delph?
Yeah.
Okay, good. It's not me. All right, next up is Alex Cook with Kevin B. on deck.
Alex Cook, Renton resident. Hello, Renton City Council. At these meetings, we've debated with you on the merits and drawbacks of FLOK cameras. We've cited abuses of the technology, stories about surveilling protesters, reproductive and gender-affirming care seekers, ICE targets, and victims of stalking and harassment. In response, we heard claims of usefulness to RPD. We asked for data and evidence instead of vague assurances, but we received admittance that the data does not exist. FLOK does not have proven efficacy. As someone else previously stated, 1 in 10 license plates scanned by FLOK actually misread the state. Using inaccurate data makes policing less effective and less safe. Just last month, a couple in Minnesota was surrounded by police when their car was mistakenly flagged as stolen by FLOK cameras. When these mistakes happen, it reflects on public officials, not the company you're contracting services from. Using this technology leaves RPD and the city open to liability. Renton's contract with FLOK costs taxpayers $88,000 a year. Why are we spending this much money on flawed and dangerous technology? I can think of plenty of better uses of those funds that would actually go towards supporting the community. In light of numerous statistics showing ineffective and how ineffective and unsafe FLOK cameras are, it makes the disregard for privacy even more outraging. Less than 1% of cars scanned by ALPRs are connected to any crime or wrongdoing. We already have a process for police searches when it comes to solving crimes. The Fourth Amendment requires a warrant based on probable cause issued by a judge. These mass surveillance databases circumvent this process and disregard our rights as stated in the Constitution. We've heard about legislative protections put in place to ensure data on us won't be misused, but the ACLU reports that FLOK can share data even when the police departments opt out. We cannot trust a private surveillance company's promises that the data it gathers on us is secure. The only way to ensure our right to privacy is to keep the cameras off permanently. I've been routinely attending city council meetings in person and online. The community response against FLOK cameras has been massive and decisive. Their thoughtful and passionate critiques that cite data and evidence has made me very proud to be a Renton resident. For months, your constituents have spoken that they oppose renewing the FLOK contract. Every vote to do so signals to us that you do not listen and you do not care. Do your jobs, represent your constituents, and terminate the FLOK contract. Thank you.
All right, Kevin with Brian Hughes on deck.
Hi, City Council. Hi, Mayor. I'll try to get through this quickly. I have stood up here on the podium with some hard things to say, so tonight I want to make sure I'm just as loud with something a little easier to digest. Thank you. Thank you for the openness and direct communication these past few weeks. I know I filled several of your inboxes, and you have answered quickly on weekends, and mornings and evenings, quickly and honestly. Thank you especially to the Planning and Development Committee. I attended your committee meeting multiple times, and I heard that changes to the trellis and arbor code and other changes to RMCs are still being worked on, and that the draft for interpretation issued for comment was not approved, and that it will not be approved as written. I also want to echo sentiment that was brought up during the Planning and Development Committee today, that the draft code interpretation that was shared for comment was shared before it was ever seen or approved by the Community and Economic Development Department Administrator. I know I can't call out members of the council individually, but I do want to call out Administrator Estop for keeping a direct line open with me. The communication's been great. What this past month has showed me is that the process can work when people in it engage in good faith. Residents raised a concern, and the committee listened, and I appreciate it. That's the version of Renton that I want to believe in, the one from the Pride Proclamation in June and the resolution in July. So I look forward to the committee's continued work, to public comment when the time comes, and to helping in any way that's useful. One more brief item, since I've been here listening to public comment. Renton School District ranks 73rd out of 231 districts in Washington, 13th of the 17 districts in King County. Our math proficiency is 37%. way below the state average. Reading is 46%, again below the state average. Those aren't numbers that a new building fixes or seizure of Tobin Street fixes. Here's the number that we should be proud of. We're the 9th most diverse school district in the entire nation out of more than 11,000 districts. Our kids are extraordinary. What they need isn't new walls. It's not a new baseball field or softball field. It's more from the people and programs inside the walls that we already have. So before millions go into the renovation, I ask our leaders to weigh that what some of that money should go to. That same money it should be spent on teachers, counselors, tutoring, and expanded opportunities for our current facilities. Retaining great staff and growing programs moves those proficiency numbers. New baseball fields and seizure of the public domain does not. Thank you.
All right, we have Brian Hughes and Jansen Hillis on deck.
Hello, my name is Brian Hughes, a resident in the Renton Highlands. I'm here asking you to cancel the FLOK contract and end ALPR surveillance in our city. We have been shown no evidence that these cameras have made Renton safer, and while I've only been to this council 3 times, I'm concerned about the lack of effective data-driven decisions being made with FLOK and ALPRs. I would think measuring the effectiveness on public safety would be a top goal, especially one that carries this much risk and impact on everyday citizens. Instead, we get told individual crime stories meant to make you angry and upset, and being told that without FLOK, our police officers would never be able to solve these crimes. If this technology is truly this impactful, then as someone who wants every individual to feel safe in Renton, I would want nothing more than to see this data showing this rise of clearance rates due to FLOK. The data the police have presented us so far has been focused on minimizing its value to the police themselves instead. The Renton police data notes that 99.992% of the 5 million images capturing regular law-abiding citizens are apparently of no value to them. Thus, we shouldn't worry. Why would we bother investing in a system that is so disproportionately impacting law-abiding citizens with no proof that it makes us safer as well? Let's also not forget 1% of all of our images is gathered by FLOK for training their systems. So regardless of whether safety is impacted or not, FLOK is always guaranteed to get value from the cameras being on. The Renton data also showed there were 71 hot list alerts. How many of these alerts were false positives? The Los Angeles Police Department found that 1 in 3 hot list entries in their officers got notifications for were because of clerical errors in updating the databases. How does Renton PD track these false positives, and what incidents have we already had? There were also 390 authorized searches done to citizens as a result of the technology. How many had false positives or were determined to not be worth pursuing further? Were all of these individuals arrested? Seeing numbers in isolation is not enough, and the data being presented is ineffective at informing us on the impact to our safety. Finally, I want to talk about why we're giving so much of our control to a company based in Georgia instead of investing in Renton and methods that we know to work to improve safety. There's really 3 parts that are part of the FLOK system: hardware, software, policy. This council, our police department, and other legislatures can control the policy. However, FLOK is in total control of both the hardware and the software. Even our data, which FLOK says is owned by us as stated in the contract, we give a perpetual license to FLOK for them to use as well. Our police department is required to have FLOK perform maintenance and update the devices with new features, and we cannot open the hardware, inspect it, nor modify it. We also are trusting that FLOK will not make any changes that could potentially impact our civil liberties. Thank you.
All right, and next up is Jansen Hillis.
Hello, Jansen Hillis, resident of Renton. Apologies about that earlier. I'm going to keep this super narrow. As the owner of a cloud, as the system administrator of an admittedly very small cloud, I'm a little concerned about how much access systems administrators have to actual resources around. You don't own these servers. They are on somebody else's property, with somebody else's power, with somebody else's network, and you have no ownership of that system. You cannot say that you own it, even if it's contractually obligated. That is not on your property. It does not move into your offices. The only way you can say that you own any of that data is if that captured information rests in your offices, is maintained with a separate connection to your internet service provider. There is no separation. I don't feel comfortable communicating that about the systems administrator or as a systems administrator, but I think it's a point of information that you should be aware of. Thank you. Please close this contract. Do not continue with it. And if you have any tools that are not locally put on your site, remember that you do not own it and develop better tools or work with other companies that have these better tools. Please do not consider this data that you own. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, well, that ends a very lengthy audience comment section. We want to thank you all for coming and sharing with the council tonight. We had lots of conversation around FLOK and camping ordinance, and then the Tobin Street vacation. So appreciate your spending your night with us here. So thank you very much for your time and comments. All right, next up is the consent agenda. There are 10 items for council consideration. Are there any that you would like to pull for separate discussion?
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Council President.
Hearing none, I move the consent agenda be approved as published.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Council President McGurven, second by Councilmember Albertson, that the council approve the consent agenda as published. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. All right, motion carries. We're on to unfinished business. Council President McGurven.
No.
All right, Councilmember Van.
No unfinished business, Mayor.
Councilmember Albertson.
No unfinished business, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Rivera.
No unfinished business, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember O'Halloran.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, the Finance Committee has 7 committee reports this evening.
Right. The first report is regarding approval of claims and payroll vouchers. The Finance Committee approves the following payments: accounts payable, total payment of $12,043,857.18 for a number of vouchers, payroll benefit withholding vouchers, and 2 wire transfers. 2 is payroll, a total payment of $2,500,302.39 for payroll vouchers that include 852 direct deposits and 18 checks. This is the July 1st through 15th pay period. This was approved by the committee chair and members.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I move the council concur with the Finance Committee report.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilmember O'Halloran, second by Councilmember McGurven, that the council concur with the Finance Committee report. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
All right, the next report is regarding the acquisition of real property called Strata Duval LLC. The Finance Committee recommends concurrence in the staff recommendation to authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute a purchase and sale agreement for King County parcel 3023059103 in substantially the form presented and all documents necessary to effectuate the purchase at a purchase price of $8,500,000 plus associated closing costs, to authorize the mayor to approve non-material changes to the agreement prior to execution, and to authorize additional budget appropriations in the amount of $8,520,000. This too is approved by the committee chair and members.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilmember.
I move the council concur with the Finance Committee report.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilmember O'Halloran, second by Councilmember McGurven, that the council concur with the Finance Committee report. Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilmember O'Halloran.
With this acquisition, we can shave a year or possibly 2 off the time it's going to take us to get our own stabilization center and shelter up and running. And we also, just as a reminder, last week we approved a contract for supportive services and shelter in the meantime. Thank you.
Thank you. I would argue that it's probably closer to 3 or 4 years, but none the difference. Any other discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
The next report is regarding an agreement with Springbrook Holdings for professional software migration services. The Finance Committee recommends concurrence in the staff recommendation to authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute the agreement with Springbrook Holdings Incorporated in the amount of $132,378.91 for professional software migration services. This too is signed by the committee chair and members.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Councilmember.
I move the council concur with the Finance Committee report.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilmember O'Halloran, second by Councilmember Gervin, that the council concur with the Finance Committee report. In discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
All right, the next report is regarding a radio equipment purchase for the police department. The Finance Committee recommends concurrence in the staff recommendation to approve the expenditure of $166,005.80 from narcotic seizure funds to purchase specialized radio equipment from Persistent Systems to enhance communication capabilities during narcotics operations involving the SWAT team. This too was approved by the committee chair and members.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Councilmember O'Halloran.
I move the council concur with the Finance Committee report.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilmember O'Halloran, second by Councilmember Gervin, that the council concur with the Finance Committee report. In discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Councilmember O'Halloran.
purchase of these systems will allow our Valley SWAT team to be able to communicate in areas where there is no internet, no cell service, and to be able to move quickly and cohesively when they are making a serious narcotic intervention, if you will. Thank you.
All right, any other discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
All right, the next report is regarding a grant from the Washington State Department of Transportation for Taxiway Alpha at the airport. The Finance Committee recommends concurrence in the staff recommendation to accept and the mayor and city clerk to execute grant agreement GCC 1412 and the grant offer letter with WashDOT not to exceed $196,121.41 for the Taxiway Alpha Rehabilitation Project. This too is approved by the committee chair and members.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Councilman.
I move the council concur with the Finance Committee report.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilmember O'Halloran, second by Councilmember Gervin, that council concur with the Finance Committee report. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
The next report is regarding obligation of WashDOT grant funding for the Williams Avenue Bridge seismic retrofit and painting project. The Finance Committee recommends concurrence in the staff recommendation to authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute addendum number 2 to contract 18228. This authorizes the city of Renton to spend the remaining grant funds in the amount of $2,448,700 for the construction phase of the project. This also authorizes the mayor and city clerk to execute any future addendums to contract 18228 that may be required to adjust the grant funding allocation amongst project phases and/or categories of work. This too is approved by the committee chair and members.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Councilmember.
I move the council concur with the Finance Committee report.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilmember O'Halloran, second by Councilmember Gervin, that the council concur with the Finance Committee report. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
All right, the final Finance Committee report is also another agreement with WashDOT to accept obligation of grant funding for the Hauser Way Bridge seismic retrofit and painting project. The Finance Committee recommends concurrence in the staff recommendation to authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute addendum number 2 to contract 18229. This authorizes the city of Renton to spend the remaining grant funds in the amount of $2,462,700 for the construction phase of this project. It also authorizes the mayor and city clerk to execute any future addendums to contract 18229 that may be required to adjust the grant funding allocation amongst project phases and/or categories of work. This too is signed by the committee chair and members.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember.
I move the council concur with the Finance Committee report.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilmember O'Halloran, second by Councilmember Gervin, that the council concur with the Finance Committee report. Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember.
the timing of these two committee reports is critical because we have a deadline to get these signed and back to WashDOT in order to not have to match any funds for these projects out of our own general funds, thereby saving us a lot of money.
Thank you. Any other discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. All right, thank you. Councilmember Prince.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, the Planning Development Committee has a committee report.
All right, the Planning Development Committee report is regarding the Arts and Culture Master Plan update. The Planning Development Committee concurs in the staff and Planning Commission recommendation to adopt the Arts and Culture Master Plan update. The committee further recommends that the resolution for this item be prepared and presented for adoption when complete. This is approved by the committee chair and member.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Councilmember.
I move that the council concur with the Planning Development Committee report.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilmember Prince, second by Councilmember Van. The council concur with the Planning and Development Committee report. Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Councilmember.
So we heard from our fantastic arts commissioners today discussing this arts and master plan, and I know that my colleagues had a lot of questions. I assume, actually, I don't assume, I know that they're going to go back, listen to that, take that in, talk to the planning commission, and bring us back a product that will be ready to adopt sometime this fall. That's it.
All right, any other discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. All right, thank you. We are on to legislation. We have one ordinance for first reading and one ordinance for second and final reading.
Right, the first ordinance is a code update regarding regulations for master plan and development agreement review. And so I'm going to start now. An ordinance of the City of Renton, Washington, amending subsections 48070 H3, 48070L, 48080G, 49200B1, and 49200H through K of the Renton Municipal Code, amending zoning regulations for master plan and development agreement review and process standards for the Valley Community Planning Area, authorizing corrections, providing for severability, and establishing an effective date.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Councilmember.
I move this ordinance be placed on second and final reading at the next council meeting.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilmember Prince, second by Councilmember McGurven, that the ordinance be placed on second and final reading at the next council meeting. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
All right, the final ordinance is for second and final reading, requires a roll call, and it's regarding the Tobin Street vacation. An ordinance of the City of Renton, Washington, vacating a portion of South Telecom Street and Alley and a portion of South Tobin Street, providing for severability and establishing an effective date. This is the Renton School District number 403 street vacation petition, which is our file number VAC 26001.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Councilmember.
I move the ordinance be adopted as read.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilmember Rivera, second by Councilmember Prince. The ordinance be adopted as read. Unless there's conversation or communication, it requires a roll call.
Councilmember
Yeah,
Vaughn.
Councilmember,
somebody's-
hold on, we have conversation here.
Or discussion?
Discussion,
Mayor?
yeah.
In terms of this ordinance, I still believe that we haven't had thoughtful conversation with representative from Duwamish tribe, as we have just seen Mr. Ken Workman here speaking, and our communities that are impacted. I have huge concerns when it comes to, and myself and communities that I represent, when it comes to ancestral land, where boundaries is not really particularly measured, but certainly not involving impacted communities and the historical context of the history, as well as the living people that are still here in our community. Unless there's more information given by the school district, I think it's not prudent for us to rush. It's not prudent to rush through the process, and we should make sure that we have in the ordinance language in terms of compensation for the city, as we are being fiscally responsible to give up our land currently. And then, of course, in language in the ordinance to provide, well, we can't make the school district partner with any organization, but I think in terms of equity and in terms of what has been spoken by our community members, I would like to have those languages be in this draft in order for us to finalize it.
All right, any other discussion? Yes, Councilmember.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. I was trying to figure out how my mic worked. I know it's been a long meeting, and I know that this has been a big conversation. I'm going to share a little bit of personal information, and then I'm going to connect it back to the bigger picture. I'm half Puerto Rican, and maybe some of you know that Puerto Rico is experiencing a terrible drought right now, right? It is colonized by America. It is called a territory, but it's a colony of the U.S. government. My spouse is half Ghanaian. Their grandmother's maiden name is Bonaparte. It might be familiar to some of you because my spouse is a descendant of Napoleon Bonaparte's brother. Yes, that's another colonizer. Now, when it comes to Puerto Rico or Grenada, I don't associate the colonizers with that history. Henry Tobin, some may call a white settler, was a colonizer. And what was talked about, the organ donation land law, was the violent, partial genocide and ethnic cleansing of Native people to get their land. And that is a horrible history that we need to speak very authentically about, right? Because when we talk about the Native and Indigenous people who were pillaged and raped and killed by white colonizers, it hits really hard for me as someone who has actively seen my motherland in Puerto Rico being colonized in a very violent way. And I find those arguments almost harmful when they're applied so late in the game, right? Because this wasn't brought up when the land was taken. It wasn't brought up when the land was sold time and time again, when the houses were sold and resold or what have you. It's being brought up right now for a partial street vacation for sports fields for our kids, for our students who are incredibly marginalized and disadvantaged. I also don't believe that we need to prioritize drivers or cars. I would like to live in a world where we can prioritize public transit and walkability and bicycles. And that's what this street vacation would actually do. And I am all for touting and recognizing and educating people on Henry Moses and the indigenous people from whom this land was taken. And for that, I encourage you all to donate to the Real Rent Duwamish and to pay your rent to the Duwamish, even though they're not a federally recognized tribe. This street vacation is for our high school students. And if we choose not to do this tonight, the sports bar fields are still gonna go in, the street's gonna remain open, and it's gonna be a danger to those kids who have to cross it every single day, because in the end, we're prioritizing cars and car accessibility over our children. And so with that, I really do appreciate the conversations that are happening. And I think we can definitely be more equitable, absolutely. And I think we should be educating and recognizing those Duwamish people who are violently removed from their homes. This is not that, because I do not associate Tobin with the Duwamish tribe. I associate Tobin with a white colonizer. So, since that partial street vacation is going to help for better access for a lot of our black and brown kids so they can play sports, which is actually a huge part of their educational experience, I really hope that we can pass this and work with Renton School District to be better in the future rather than trying to punish them for mistakes of the past through accountability measures that would be more punitive than helpful. Thank you.
Okay, so we still have, no. Thank you. Okay, so we still have a motion on the floor. Any other discussion? Nope. All right. We have a roll call vote to take.
Councilmember Vaughn.
No. Nay.
Councilmember Albertson.
Aye.
Councilmember Rivera.
Aye.
Councilmember O'Halloran.
Aye.
Councilmember McIrvin.
Abstain.
And Councilmember Prince.
Aye.
Roll call, Mr. Mayor, 4 ayes, 1 nay, and 1 abstention.
All right, motion carries. Let's see, we're on to new business. Council President McIrvin, you're up.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. On behalf of Council President Perez, I would like to announce the Committee of the Whole will be meeting on Monday, August 17th at 5:45 p.m. here in chambers and via video conference. One item on the agenda, and that is to discuss the proposed utility rates for 2027-2028. Following that, we'll have our regular council meeting right here in chambers at 7 p.m. and also available via video conference. That's all, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Van.
Thank you, Mayor. The Utilities Committee has a meeting on August 17, 2026, Monday at 2:45 p.m. We have 4 items on the agenda. It's 1, agreement with KPFF Consultant Engineers Incorporated for engineering services for Panther Creek Culvert replacement at Talbot Road. 2, agreement with Ferguson Enterprises Incorporated for replacement of census base station for automatic metering infrastructure, AMI. 3, amendment number 2 to CAG-18-057 with Geo Engineers Incorporated for Cedar River Maintenance Dredge Project, post-construction documentation and mitigation monitoring. And 4, emerging issues in utilities, Highlands Reservoir Water System Improvement Project update. And that is what the official business for the Utilities Committee. I also want to take this opportunity to thank community for coming and speaking. And given the contract with FLOK and the information that we've heard, or lack of information, I move that the council direct the city administration to not renew the FLOK contract.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilmember Van to direct the city not to renew the FLOK contract, and seconded by Councilmember Rivera. Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Councilmember.
I would speak against this motion at this particular moment, and I think it's premature given that we just agreed at the very last meeting we were going to have a town hall on this very subject. I think there's a lot more things that need to get worked out, and while we had a lot of good conversation here tonight, I think we had additional opportunities for public participation scheduled in the future. So I don't think this motion makes sense at this particular point in time.
All right. Yes, Councilmember.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. This motion actually is timely because it's been a few months and a year and a half plus now with our community member being disappeared. The reason I didn't actually motion for us to cancel the contract is that there could be fees and all these other things. And I understand there's a town hall for us to understand that what has been in place and what we can currently see and could benefit maybe in the future. But as far as the contract lies with the current contract, it really is independent of the town hall. I think for me, the town hall, when I motioned, was really to help community understand what is it within the city's jurisdiction, how we implemented FLOK, which is very different from other city. And that due diligence need, and should have done like a few months ago when I've asked, and we didn't do that until the third time I mentioned on council. For the contract, and I've always been told not to read the contracts in general because I'm not a city attorney, although I practice law, is that what concerns me a lot that brings up within this contract and all the issues that FLOK has caused, right? The data breach, but the contract itself, I could only anticipate when we asked for a change in forum, they would not change to Georgia, from Georgia to Washington State. I can only anticipate that they would not want to explain further or give us more written specific things. And that's a huge concern on top of all the other concerns of our community members being disappeared.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Councilmember.
So I'm confused a little bit because can you repeat the motion, please?
Well, the motion was to direct the administration to not renew the contract with FLOK.
Okay, because I thought I heard terminate, and I was going to say
yeah. No, the motion was to not renew the contract. That was the motion.
Sorry.
No, you're fine.
My bad.
You're fine. I agree with Councilmember McGurven. I think it's a little premature, considering last week we asked to cover him, and then we also asked to have a town hall. And I think that we need to, if we're going to make motions, then they need to matter. And so if we just said that we want to have a town hall, let's have the town hall. We can always come back. The cameras are turned off. Commander Swain told us that they're turned off. We can always come back after the town hall if there's desire to terminate. But I think right now it's premature for me.
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, I think Councilmember Rivera, then Councilmember Van.
Thank you. And then Councilmember Alhorn had her hand up. I seconded the motion for this conversation because I really think it's important for us to be really transparent here on the dais. I am hesitant because, and my drawer motions are not like double jeopardy. We can always bring this back, and we can always, if we choose to, to not cancel it tonight, we can always choose to cancel it later. My hesitations are, one, yes, we just have the town hall that we know is coming up this month, hopefully. And two, one of our colleagues isn't here, and I know we don't typically tailor motions around who and who isn't here, but with the intensity of this particular motion and knowing Council President Perez's connections to the Latinx and immigrant and Mexican community, which is disproportionately being impacted right now, and the town hall, it's a combination of things. I am personally at the point where I think, I know where I'm going to vote on this, and I will vote on this. I also think that we can, since the cameras are paused, we can consider, would be, I think, with good due diligence to allow all community members to have the opportunity to attend the Equity Commission or, other presentations or town halls of which RPD is going to do. Though I do think when it comes to the information I've received, my mind is, I think, pretty much made up at this point. I'm definitely not someone who can't change it. I am a Gemini after all, but I will say that I can be open-minded enough to be to any new information. But right now, this does seem a little soon, just because we just passed the other stuff last week. That's just my 2 cents.
Okay, Councilmember Halloran, then Councilmember Van.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So for our committee of the whole today, we had a in-depth conversation with the police chief, and I agree. Let's not renew this contract. Let's rewrite the contract and work with FLOK on the things that we discussed earlier today and everybody's concerns. And the chief has offered to listen to all of our concerns and line items on the contract that he will address with FLOK. So yeah, let's not renew this contract. Let's do a better contract that addresses our concerns when that time comes. And let's provide the chief with our concerns over the current contract so that he knows exactly what you guys are worried about and what we are worried about. And let's take that step.
All right, now Councilmember Van. Oh, wait, hold on. Councilmember Albertson. Yeah, so everybody gets.
Yeah, I'll weigh in given Councilmember O'Halloran's comments. For me, it was kind of a foregone conclusion that we weren't going to renew this contract as it currently is. In fact, at the end of the committee of the whole, the chief has the letter that he's sending with the points that will need to be, will need to be addressed. They brought up everybody's. So that's, to me, that's a foregone conclusion that this particular contract, as it is currently is not going to be renewed. I'm wondering if Councilmember Vaughn is talking about renewing any FLOK contract or this contract, and I would like to get clarification on that.
Yes, for first clarification, I did not say to direct city administration to cancel the contract with FLOK or to terminate contract with FLOK that we currently have. What I motioned was to have council direct the city administration to not renew the FLOK contract. And that's what's presented. In terms of your question, that is really, it depends, right? Because I don't know what the next contract is. All I know is this particular contract. And if council need additional directions to give to staff in terms of what to go about with that, then that's up to other council.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah. Oh, everybody wants to be in here. Councilmember Prince.
Thank you. So I think that when you know better, you do better. And I think that when we initially signed the current contract that we have with FLOK, we were thinking this is a tool that's going to help save our residents. I don't think we were thinking about any of the geopolitical or any of the other things that are out there. In fact, this contract was done during the Biden administration, so we weren't thinking about ICE or any of that stuff. I do think now that we know that there's some concerns, we owe it to come back with our concerns and see if we can get a better contract with FLOK. And if that's not possible, then you know what? At least we tried to see what we could do, and we can move on. But I want us to have this town hall that we said we wanted to have, and then I think we can move forward from there.
All right, Councilmember McGurven, and then Councilmember Rivera.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate the clarification on the motion as in terms of the non-renewal versus termination. I think that's an important distinction. I would also concur. I think the current contract is terrible and would not to support renewing it as is. What I heard during the committee of the whole earlier from the chief and others is that there is no auto renew portion in the contract anymore, that we've stripped that out. Therefore, any new contract would have to come back to this body for renewal. So I would still say we still have that decision point in the future, regardless of right now. So I don't know that the motion accomplishes what the makers sought for it to do if we ultimately have that action as a body. That was the only thing I'd say on that.
Yeah, the chief sent them the letter basically voiding the auto renewal. So yeah, there is no more auto renewal. So Councilmember Rivera.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilmember Rick Irvin actually just addressed my question and my concern because I was curious, based off what we heard in committee of the whole, auto renewal is off. Because there is a financial component to this contract, it would have to come back to us for review.
Yes.
And so I guess my question is going to be for the city attorney of what exactly this motion would be able to accomplish tonight. I'm sorry.
In my opinion, what the intent is and the effect would be, the contract as it currently stands would not be renewed. And there is time for the city to provide that notification to FLOK should there be different direction later. At this point, the action on this would not be required to be taken for, I think, 2 months. This is not my specific project, so I might be off a little bit with the dates.
That's correct.
Did that address your question?
Yeah, so just clarification, regardless of the motion passing tonight or not, we still have to review the contract in 2 months. It's not going to be the same contract.
It's not going to, it is my understanding that there is no auto renewal on the current contract.
Got it.
Anymore.
Yes. See, I'm stuck on also.
At this point, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yep. All right. I think.
I was going to say, I was stuck on the same thing, Councilmember Albertson question, which was this contract, the contract, or any contract? And that was kind of the confusion I had. So thank you for clarifying.
All right, Councilmember Ryan.
Yeah, so for me, is this particular contract, but in general, I don't like FLOK cameras. And in fact, it's not just me, but community and data and all the other information. I just want to be clear that this is the renewal of the contract, not terminating the contract itself, because I don't know the consequences of terminating it, as it wasn't really presented. And so that's the difference.
All right. Are we ready to vote? Councilmember O'Halloran, did you have your hand up? Nope. All right. If there's no more discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay?
Nay.
All right, the nays have it. I lost my place here. Where am I at? Okay, we're on to Councilmember Albertson.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. On Monday, August 17th at 3:45 p.m., Public Safety Committee will meet in the council conference room and via video conference. There are 4 items on the agenda. Number 1, memorandum of agreement with King County Sheriff's Office for the use of National Integrated Ballistic Information Network, NIBIN technology. Number 2, federal enforcement activity on city property. Number 3, ordinance adding a new chapter 6-34 of the Renton Municipal Code, public property use, camping, and trespass. Number 4, emerging issues in public safety. And Mr. Mayor, I want to take some time to address the issue of FLOK, since we had so much tonight. Particularly, it was requested we go over and review the contract, and I wanted to talk about my takeaway from it. We've had many comments, and I can appreciate the passion and everybody kind of staying on the road they're on. But I do want to pull out a few things because I heard some things where it doesn't seem as though it translated well. So, number one, because people were talking about FLOK and their unlimited, where it actually says limited use of data and that sort of thing in section 4.1, as I mentioned in the CAL. They're granted limited data use to provide FLOK services to the city of Renton. That is a key point in that. It's not they have the data and they can do whatever with. Now, a lot of these things actually come down to the fact of the matter is I could run down probably 10 or 20 things, and the underlying thing is you don't trust what FLOK is going to do. So it could be delineated in that contract that they can't do this, can't do this. I think a lot of people just won't believe, but I will stick with the facts here. Number two, is stated that a federal judge actually would have to request data from Renton and not FLOK. So that's one thing, as we own the data to the degree that we own the data by legally, not so much the comments of the last speaker, but that would have to be the case as opposed to them going to FLOK. Now, there is one passage in there where it says, and somebody pointed out that they could release that for some legal reason and that sort of thing. I think a lot of this is contract language. If necessary, I don't know, maybe FBI hears there's a dirty bomb somewhere and, hey, we need to get this right away. They have the information. Probably needs to be there. I don't know. But for the most part, as far as getting data from FLOK, directly from FLOK, that is the route they have to come to Renton, from my understanding from the CAL. The fact of the matter is, strong policy really has been established. People keep referring back to the University of Washington study. Well, since then, what was that, 2 years ago, there have been actions based on that study. Policies established by the state. Limitations have been put in place. You can decide to believe them. You can decide not to believe them. Totally understand that. You're right. But safeguards have been put in place. And either we're going to accept that or we're not. We have recourse for those who misuse, if it's misused by other state agencies. That's all. That's only people who have access. We have recourse. If somebody chooses to do that, it is punishable by law to whatever degree that it is. By the way, to go back to one thing with the contract, because somebody said, well, FLOK changed their terms. Doesn't apply to us. The contract we signed, that is what applies in situations. What Renton's contract says, their changing terms does not retroactively go and cancel out what we signed. So that's an important thing to understand. Yes, Amy, that is an important thing to understand. That actually comes from
Mayor, can we have, due to respect, I'm sorry, can we have the council do not address the audience?
Yeah.
Okay. My apologies. Yes, it is true.
Kindly, please.
It's fair. Let's see. The anonymized data that they talk about, it is, as it says in the contract, it's used for training. It's not everything. It is not specific as far as the AI models and things such as that. To have it be more effective, we don't know, but that is, I don't know. We won't worry about that one. But let's talk about locally here, because I think that's the thing that keeps getting lost. Commander Swain said today, he checks it regularly. So for them to turn it on, he would see that it's on and turn it off. There isn't a set it and forget it attitude here with the RPD. And that's important to understand. We have to give some credit. I think well-deserved credit to the efforts that the RPD has gone through to make this tool as safe from misuse as possible. The state has given some assistance in that as well. No one wants to acknowledge that, but that indeed is the case. From the standpoint of all the data from Mississippi, Wisconsin, wherever, we don't base our actions on what other cities do. I don't think we should base our actions on what other cities do. Okay. We should not make policy based on what other cities do. Nor should we assume that our officers' actions are going to be based on what other officers do. There are rogue officers out there. There are officers who use their weapons to shoot their loved ones or whatever. Should we ban guns from officers? There are going to be bad actors.
Kindly.
There are going to be bad actors. There are going to be bad actors out there. And we do not make policy based on bad actors. We make policies based on what will serve the greater good. Now, it was also stated that 100% of the officers would come and say that FLOK is an effective tool. We were told every Monday and Tuesday, they asked what the status is. That is important to know. It is absolutely important to know. You can ignore it if you want, but obviously the operators of the tool have found effective use in it. There may not be data that they crunched and did that. They know in real time it has helped them. It has found bodies in Mexico from homicides here. That is important to know. It is an effective tool. And overall, when you look at the concept of, well, they're tracking me, they're not tracking you. They capture your license plate, but unless you've done something, honestly, you probably don't matter too much to the law enforcement. It will go on like it never happened. Someone could stand on the corner and see your license plate. That's not private information. So the fact of the matter is, it still stands in my mind. After we reviewed the contract, there's nothing that stood out that made it incredibly, that raised this incredible hole, like we're missing this thing. Is it vague? Yes. Do we have some things in place to basically to put things in? Have we put things in place to make it better? Absolutely. Are those plans in place? Has the chief made the document to send it on? Yes. And they can either agree or not agree. If they don't agree, well, then I guess we wouldn't renew it. But if they do agree and address these issues specifically, then my question would be, well, is it sufficient enough? And if that is in the works to do, then we need to actually trust that that is going to actually be in place. We need to trust the process. But from what I've heard, I haven't heard anything that says this is a danger to the community more than it's a help to the community. And by the way, we actually heard from people that it specifically helped, and it was a bit disturbing that no one applauded for people that actually said it helped them actually either help others get off the street or not be abducted and that sort of thing. It was quiet as...
Kindly refrain from outbursts, please. This is the council's time to do their business.
We heard from victims, and they said it would have played a key role. They said it had played a key role, and that was summarily ignored because of the fear of what it could do. Somebody said, one of the speakers said, it's not a matter of when. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. It's a matter of when this is needed. The one gentleman said, well, why haven't they found that person yet? The Amber Alert. It's because the cameras weren't on. So it's not a matter of if. It's not a matter of if. It's a matter of when. And overall, we're basing a lot of our argument on possibility versus probability. And because of that, I know we have, and like council member was mentioned before, the town hall sounds like for informational purposes, I'm still for that, but I'm just going to say right now, I want to move to have the cameras turned back on, and if the town hall and subsequent information comes out that causes us to rethink it and pause them again, then that's fine. But I see no reason to continue to kick the can down the road. As another council member said, they're pretty much staunch in their position. And even though mine could change, it's highly unlikely. And I think it's unfair, quite frankly, to the Renton population as a whole that we keep kicking and finding excuses to either not turn them back on or keep them off permanently. So I move to turn the cameras back on immediately and go from there.
You know what? I'm going to second this because I wanted to have the discussion on the dais.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Now we're going to open it up for discussion.
Mayor?
Yes.
Thank you.
Councilmember.
So I think what I said still stands. I want us to have the town hall. I want us to get the information to the chief so that we can create a better contract. But I, as Councilmember Rivera said earlier, I want us to be transparent when we're having conversations on the dais and ensure that we show our work on things that are important like this. So yes, I've said how I feel about FLOK, but I also understand that there's some issues with the contract. And as I said before, when you know better, you do better. So I want to give us the opportunity to do better. And if we can't do better, then fine. But I want to give us the opportunity to be able to do better.
Councilmember Rivera.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to address a couple things that were mentioned by the maker of the motion. One, it was talking about the greater good, and I'm going to go back to what I said initially a couple months ago when that was brought up. If we really talked about the greater good, I don't think rape culture would really be a thing. I don't think the number of women who are sexually assaulted and raped on a daily basis would be as high. And so the arguments around the greater good fall in that same like facts versus feelings, because who's the greater good? What's the greater good? Whose population are you talking about, right? I think it's really disrespectful also to, again, motion this when we have the town hall coming up, when there's more opportunity for conversation, and we've heard from so many people about their concerns. I can see both sides of this argument, and I can validate both sides of this argument because I think it's incredibly important to understand the holistic argument that is being made here in order to understand and be able to respond and be better as was being talked about. Additionally, I think when we are going to be addressing these issues, we need to understand that we cannot pick and choose when we choose to listen to our emotions and we choose to feed into fear. Because we don't want to make decisions around fear when it comes to the fear of this tool being misused. But we do want to listen to our fear around the idea that every one of us is going to be a victim of a violent crime one day, no matter what. Right? Those two things aren't massing for me and are showing inconsistencies in this straw man argument. And so for me, it's still going to be a no when it comes to turning these, because one, the information hasn't all been out there for everyone. We haven't had the town hall that we literally just voted on last week. And I think there's a lot more conversation to be had. And I know that we are very, like me and the maker are very opposite of this. But I can look at the maker, I can look at what's happening, and I can say, yeah, I understand our PD's perspective. I understand our chief's perspective. I understand the maker's perspective. And I can still disagree with it. And that is where I'm going to rest on this one for right now. Thank you.
Any more discussion? Yes, Councilmember.
Yeah, I have 2 points. The first is I just want to make it clear that the motion was an appropriate motion because we had issue about the exact wording of how to motion last week. So it's not necessarily needing to direct the city administration to turn back FLOK cameras, but just go ahead and direct, just to turn on cameras. Am I correct? Is that a valid motion or should?
Parliamentarian of the group down there.
Well, I'm seeking clarity, if I may. Councilmember Albertson, my understanding was that your motion was to tell the administration to.
No, I didn't say tell the administration.
Okay. Will you please repeat it then? Because
I move that the FLOK cameras be turned on.
Turn back on.
Immediately.
Immediately.
Now you can use unpause. I will substitute. I move that the FLOK cameras be unpaused at this point.
It is my understanding, again, this is not the area that I support on a regular basis, but it is my understanding that there may still be some statutory issues with what we are able to do. And so to the extent that that is the direction, there might still be some state law or other legal ramifications involved in that.
If I may just, I think you misunderstood me. I am speaking English. I am asking the way we motion here
That's inappropriate.
No, I am
And
speaking English.
I know that that's inappropriate to
I am
staff.
speaking English. I'm not saying it to staff. I'm saying it to myself that I am speaking English because last week and the many week before, I've been told over and over, and you weren't here last week. So I'm not talking to you, I'm talking to myself, reminding me that I am speaking English. And that last week repeatedly and many weeks before that, in terms of making a motion, we are to direct city administration to do such and such. Is it now that we are okay with as a policy? And it's okay, whatever we decide, I'm totally cool with it.
Right.
We will stick with it. But I like predictability and data and just making sure that we stick with it. So are we okay now then to just, we want to do what we want to do and not necessarily having to refer it to city administration?
Thank you for that
future
clarification.
acknowledgement, for me to know.
No, thank you for that clarification, Councilmember Van. You are in fact correct that it is to direct the administration to take action. So the form of the motion should properly be to direct the administration to take the action to turn off the cameras as soon as possible or turn them back on.
Yeah.
I apologize.
Shall I restate my motion?
And
Please
yes,
do. Thank you.
Please, the facility.
Thank you for that clarification, Councilmember Vaughn.
Thank you.
I move to, I have a question about this, but I'll say what you said. I move to direct the administration to unpause the FLOK cameras immediately.
Your second stands for conversation. Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
So, yes.
One more point I wanted to make, because I know we do love to follow facts sometimes. And so one thing I want to say is Seattle and other cities for many years, FLOK has been around, I think, since about 2013, 2014, I want to say. Definitely fact check me on that. I'm human, not AI. I do make mistakes. Now, when I bring that up, because there's a number of CCTV cameras, ALPR cameras, Seattle, neighboring regions for the last 10 plus years. What hasn't changed is the number of missing and murdered Indigenous women. Seattle and Seattle, Washington is one of the highest places for missing, murdered Indigenous women. And it's one of the most consistent statistics, actually. So when we talk about the benefit of these cameras, that for me has kind of been one of the data points I have looked at for all cameras, all Big Brother, all of that. Can it help with the trafficking, the murder, and the missing of Indigenous women? We haven't seen that needle change in the last however many years that these cameras have actually been around. So for me, these cameras are, yeah, maybe they're an investigative tool. Are they a good one? I mean, a dull axe doesn't really chop wood. So for me, I'm kind of going off a lot of that information because I'm looking at the victims who are most marginalized identities, right? Those, and again, those for the more we love, those are victims. I really appreciate hearing from them because again, that's a very good perspective for us to have. And trafficking in this city on the I-5 corridor is still a nightmare. Those cameras haven't really made a difference. And I just wanted to make that point.
Anybody else? Okay, Councilmember Van.
Well, thank you. I didn't make my second point. I just want to make sure we have the technicality out of the way so I can understand. And I no disrespect, Madam Attorney. My point in terms of turning the FLOK cameras back on at this moment in time is actually not appropriate and not what community is asking. In terms of having the town hall, when I made that motion, is really to educate our community and to really hopefully heal the community so they understand it's not just this vague thing, which didn't happen, right? How we got orientation, but then we also did our own research aside of what staff is telling us. And so I'm not going to belabor the point. I know it's getting late, so thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, Councilmember.
And I'm glad that point was made, and which is why I made the motion, because I believe, as was said, the town hall is to educate anyone who attends and not necessarily get their go around and get their vote and that sort of thing. I believe personally, when they are educated on the system, the same education that we received, and all the smoke is cleared, and all of the fears that may or may not be based on anything that actually can happen or does happen, I believe that they will, that education will result in more of the understanding and acceptance that they are not in imminent danger, which is based with that basis. I conclude that there's no need to continue to push it off if that indeed is the case, which is why I made the motion to have them on. They can be on, the community still gets educated, and for some reason, and once again, I never said I was in the, I said everybody was going to be a victim of violent crime, but I do believe and know that there are going to be more violent crimes committed in the next whatever it is, that it's not just going to disappear. And because of that, I think RPD should have every tool in their arsenal to help to solve as many as possible or to contribute to that. That's what I said. That was the reason behind the timing of the motion, simply because we've done everything that we have set out to do in understanding, discussing, parsing out what this FLOK contract is, what it does, what it does not do. And so therefore, at this point in time, it just makes sense to me.
Yes, Councilmember McGurven.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just last point I want to chime in on this one on is that I think but a few moments ago, more than a few moments now, we was nearly universally agreed upon on this dais that the current contract is flawed. So I fail to see how turning the cameras back on with a flawed contract makes sense. That is all.
Okay. Any other discussion? All right. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay.
Nay.
I don't know what that is.
It's a nay.
Who is aye? Who is aye?
Should we have a roll call vote?
Have to do a roll call.
Roll call vote, Mr. Mayor?
Okay, roll call vote, please.
Okay, Councilmember Vaughn.
Nay.
Councilmember Alverson.
Aye.
Councilmember Rivera.
Nay.
Councilmember O'Halloran.
Aye.
Councilmember McGurven.
No.
And Councilmember Prince. All right, so we have a tie vote, Mr. Mayor. 3 ayes, 3 nays.
That's a tie vote. Thanks. All right. Well, I feel like I'm in a
Point of
weird spot
information
here. What's that?
Point of information.
Yes.
Is the mayor required to act, or can he choose not to?
Yeah. Well, I believe I have the option.
I believe you have the option. Let me check that.
Mr. Mayor.
Check on that? Yes, sir.
You know what? I'm going to go back to what I said earlier. I want us to be able to get the chief the information we want on the contract, so I'm going to change my vote to nay.
Okay, well
But if I may,
then you can Now it's
Oh, hold
4-2. Correct?
4-2 nays.
4-2 nay.
4-2 nays.
Okay.
Sorry, let me get it on the record. 4-2 nays.
4-2 nay. Okay. All right. Motion does not pass.
Mayor,
Yes, Councilmember.
if I may ask, just for my wanting to know the information, if you do have it handy, Madam Attorney, there, if you do. If you don't, that's okay, as far as the option 2 or not, because I think we've addressed this before.
If it's not an ordinance.
I do not have that
That's okay.
at my fingertips. I am aware that the mayor cannot vote to break a tie in the event of an ordinance.
Yeah.
I do not, what I believe I was asked to check is whether the mayor is required to break a tie or not, and that's what I don't have the answer to.
I
And that's
believe I
fine.
can abstain. It's one of the options, I believe, so. It's
I
so
believe that
rare.
is correct, but I will have that ready for the
It's-
next
Madam
it's
Attorney,
so-
time we
it's
meet.
so rare. I lost my place. Councilmember Rivera.
Hi. Wow, that was exciting. Oh, let me get my place. I'm still just processing what literally just happened. I didn't know we could change our votes on the dais like that. I love learning new things. Wow. People should study what just happened. That was amazing. Okay, so sorry, team. We do have a meeting next Monday for the Transportation Committee. The Transportation Committee will be meeting at 5 p.m. on Monday, August 17th. We have 2 items on the agenda. The first being the 2027 to 2032 6-year Transportation Improvement Program. The second is emerging issues in transportation, which includes an update to Satori Elementary Safety Project. And that is all, Mr. Mayor. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. On to Councilmember Halloran.
No new business, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember McGurven.
I think I already went.
It's me.
Oh, Councilmember, that's right. That's right. You were council president today.
And I have-
Councilmember Prince.
I have no new business, Mr. Mayor.
What is the wish of the council?
Move we
Mr.
adjourn.
Mayor, on the record,
Yes, Council.
you do in fact have the right to abstain from voting to break a tie. So just for clarification,
Okay.
in the future. Thank you.
Goodness for the record.
Move
Okay.
we adjourn?
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that we adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. We're adjourned.